Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy. And man, what an electric card UFC London was last night. I mean, obviously, we had Tom Aspinall in the main event going out there, submitting Alexander Volkov in the first round. You had Arnold Allen with a career-defining performance against Dan Hooker. Paddy the Batty doing what he does best, giving everybody a scare in the first couple seconds and then going on to finish his opponent. McCann with a knockout of the year. And we got so much to unpack about this card. It was just such a pleasure to watch. Arguably one of the best fight cards of the year thus far. And I mean, if it's any indication, man, we still got the Piotr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling card coming up. So, man, I just cannot wait to see what the rest of UFC in 2022 is going to look like. But today, all focus is on UFC London because it went down last night at the O2 Arena in London, England. And, man, did the fighters deliver? They sure did. So, my boy Uncle Weezy said, such a great card. What's up, Dan? Hey, Uncle Weezy, you want to hop in here with me, man? I posted the link on my Twitter, so the link to join this call is here. So I'm having some 5-minute appearances from all my friends on here. So you're more than welcome to hop in with me. But first off, let's talk about this Tom Aspinall fight. So this was super impressive. There was obviously a lot of narratives going into this. What happens if Tom Aspinall goes past the first round? I mean, talking about as if it's like a foregone conclusion that he loses if it goes past the first round. We don't know if he does or doesn't slow down, but based on what I saw yesterday, that was a very mature performance. I know it was only 3 minutes and 45 seconds, but what I saw was the sign of a future top 5 guy and the sign of the emerging style of these new heavyweights that are really going to take over for years to come, man. I mean, you saw with Cyril Gane how. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. You guys remember back in the day how it was these guys like Cain Velasquez who were the faster men at heavyweight, but Cain Velasquez was always the smaller guy. Now you got these guys like Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, who are like 6'5", but they're moving around like welterweights. You don't see that kind of speed. You don't see that kind of movement from the heavyweight division too often with guys that size. So it's truly, it's just heartwarming to see like what the sport's evolved into, man. And as far as this performance is concerned, I mean, Tom Aspinall literally showed all facets of his game in under 4 minutes. I mean, on the feet, he was lighting him up. The speed difference was so apparent. But man, the head movement, y'all saw when Volkov threw that head kick, how Aspinall was just like, shoot, just did a nice little pull back, and man, his counters are on point. I love the head movement. What about the takedowns? That first takedown, that body lock takedown, took him down, started busting him up with elbows, opened up the cut, and then Volkov actually got back up. And it's interesting because with a lot of, not with everybody, but with a lot of people, you question like, okay, what happens? You put that energy into getting the takedown, you do some damage, and the guy just gets back up and he's not discouraged at all. You wonder, is Aspinall at all? Is he going to be huffing and puffing? Is he going to be feeling like, oh man, I just took him down, was teeing off on those elbows, and now the guy's still here right in front of my face? That didn't discourage him at all. You saw that slip he had to the next takedown, which was a double leg. I mean, that head movement, the timing, the way he puts together all elements of MMA, I'm truly impressed because, like I said, we saw the calf kicks, we saw the punches, we saw the takedowns, we saw the ground and pound, and to cap it all off, we saw that black belt in jiu-jitsu. To go out there and submit a guy like Alexander Volkov, not just to do it in the first round, but to do it with a straight arm lock, I mean, that's something you don't often see. And just to put it into perspective, I have to scroll back all the way to 2010, when that's the last time Alexander Volkov was submitted, interestingly enough, by Maxime Grishin, who's in the UFC right now too. So, I mean, Volkov's not a guy that's just some walk in the park. Volkov's not the kind of guy that's going to take a knee for nobody. So it was truly an eye-opening performance. And I kind of feel like you can never win with people. And what I mean by that is this, with Arnold Allen, everybody's criticizing him for, oh, he just scrapes by these decisions. And with Tom Aspinall, everyone's criticizing him, oh, he doesn't go past the first round. So it's like guys, like every situation is different. So to me, it's like, I feel like you can never win with people. If someone goes the distance like Arnie does from time to time, people hate on him. If someone like Tom Aspinall doesn't go past the first round, everybody hates on him. So to me, it's like you got to take it on a case-by-case basis, and you got to look at the skills we have at hand. So with Tom Aspinall, I mean, I think it's without a doubt that this guy is going to move up to the top 5 of the division right now. And the challenges that we have ahead of him, I mean, off the top of my head, I can mention them, but why not I just fucking pull up the rankings right now and see these kind of guys that we got there? Because I mean, you're looking at now, I was going to say there's no more easy fights. Alexander Volkov's not an easy fight, but I mean, you're looking at the Derek Lewises, the Curtis Blades, the Tai Tuivasas, the Stipe Miocic's, the Cyril Gans, and most importantly, the king of the heavyweight division, Francis Ngannou. So, I mean, he went out there, he called out Tai Tuivasa. I think that's a great matchup for him. Tuivasa holds the number 3 spot on planet Earth, and I would not mind seeing that be his next fight. I did hear some rumblings about Stipe versus Tuivasa being the next fight, but that hasn't been signed as far as I'm concerned. So, fuck it, do Aspinall versus Tuivasa. So I got a couple guests lined up today. We're gonna, briefly talk to some badass guys on here and see what they had to say about it. So first up, I'd like to bring in Andrew Gombas. Andrew, what's up, buddy?
What's up, bro? It's good to talk to you.
Likewise, man. It's your first time on Half the Battle, so welcome to Half the Battle.
Oh, I appreciate you having me.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. So by chance, when you were in the lobby there, did you hear anything I said?
Yeah, I started to hear the Aspinall. I caught the back end of the Aspinall comments. I agree with you. I think Tuivasa would be a good fight next. Heard some of those rumblings about Stipe versus Tuivasa, but Aspinall, he's clearly the real deal. There's no denying that now.
I mean, as a former wrestler yourself, you see that first body lock takedown, which was very impressive. And oftentimes, one of the things I like to talk about is, firstly, can you turn your volume down, because I can hear myself on yours. But yeah, one of the things I like to talk about, like that makes these guys like Bryce Mitchell stand out. These guys like Merab Dvalishvili, Bilal Muhammad, all these guys, that Nick Maximov, they can just shoot takedown after takedown after takedown. The first few might get stuffed, but these guys aren't discouraged, and that's a style that's going to win a lot of fights going forward. And what I liked from seeing a heavyweight like Tom Aspinall was the diversity in his takedown attacks. I mean, to go out there, get that body lock takedown, you take him down, you start opening him up with those elbows, and Volkov, being the veteran he is, gets back up. And for a lot of guys, that's discouraging. It's like, oh shit, I had him right there, and now he's back up. And Volkov's a very intimidating guy. He's smiling at you the whole time. He has no fear. And the head movement that Aspinall showed, that slip he had to time that beautiful blast double, I mean, I like, for a less than 4-minute performance, I don't know what else he could have shown, Andrew.
Yeah, that's honestly an angle of the fight. And again, sorry about the audio. I'm actually not in my normal setup right now. I usually have a nice microphone and stuff. But Aspinall, I didn't think that the wrestling would play a big factor in this fight. Like, Aspinall took down Arlovsky and he submitted him. So it's kind of in the back of my mind. But when I was breaking down this fight, I thought it would primarily be a striking fight. And Volkov's not easy to get down. I mean, we've seen guys try to take him down before. It's not easy to take him down. It's not easy to hold him down. And he went out there and did his thing in the grappling. And like, we knew he had the BJJ credentials, but hadn't seen it that much out of the Arlovsky fight. Now I know he's a very well-rounded fighter. And it's very impressive to see a guy dispose of Volkov like that, because we've seen Volkov fight so many high-level guys. We've seen him win fights. We've seen him lose competitive fights. Like, even the Cyril Gane fight went 5 rounds, and I think Volkov won a round. Either way, it was a more competitive performance than he had against Aspinall. So, again, I just can't say enough good things about this kid.
Yeah, same. And I mean, we just talked about the wrestling. We talked about the jiu-jitsu. I mean, one doesn't simply hit a straight arm lock against a guy like Volkov inside a cage fight in less than 4 minutes. That was beautiful. I mean, like I was saying earlier, the last time someone tapped this guy out was actually in 2010 versus Maxime Grishin, who, shout out to him for cashing for both of us against Willie Knight not too long ago. And then you take it a step further in the striking element. Look, we know about the speed, we know about the movement, the footwork, because like I was talking about earlier, it used to be a case in the heavyweight division where you got these guys like Cain Velasquez, who he was known for being the faster man, but he was always like the smaller guy. But to see these guys like Gane and Aspinall, who are 6'5", fucking bouncing around no problem, like isn't that just like a beautiful thing to see the evolution of the sport like that?
Yeah, the perfect word was evolution. That's exactly the word I was going to use. It's crazy seeing how much the sport evolves in such a short period of time. And I mean, like at heavyweight now, we kind of have this new guard with the Surreal Gons and the Ngannous and the Aspinalls, and we've kind of started to see like those Derek Lewis types, like the Andre Arlovsky types, kind of seem to be on the backswing. I shouldn't even put Derek Lewis in that category yet because he just beat Chris Dawkins. So but before he fought Tuivasa, but you can even say Tuivasa is part of that new guard. He's been around a little bit longer, but his rise to the top of the heavyweight division seemed to happen overnight. Like I feel like just yesterday he was losing to Sergey Spivak, and now he's like one win away from a title shot. So it's funny how quick that stuff happens.
No, it's great to see these young guys. They take their licks, and you know something that you've heard me talk about is that no one's exempt from that first L. And honestly, I find it to be a red flag when these guys are undefeated. Unless your name is John Jones or Khabib Nurmagomedov, no one's exempt from that first L. So, yeah, and I think these guys got to pay their dues and show like what they're really made of. You look at a guy like Jamal Hill. I mean, that fight against Paul Craig could have made or broke him. I mean, he comes out there those next two fights emphatically. I mean, look, I know Jimmy Crute as, you know, taking some L's and here and there, but who the hell has ever handled Jimmy Crute like that? I know Johnny Walker might not have the best chin. Johnny Walker just went 5 rounds with Tiago. Tiago dropped Magomed Ankalaev. He didn't drop Johnny Walker. Like we all thought Jamal Hill was going to get a first round KO, but none of us thought he was going to do it like that. Like, so it's just pretty impressive what we've been seeing. So man, I think the future is bright. And then obviously the whole talking point about Aspinall not going past the first round. What happens? I mean, look, obviously that's a valid point to bring up, but I don't really see any indication that, you know, this guy is just it's a foregone conclusion that he's just going to gas out and slow down. I felt like he was pacing himself. And when you hear him talk, he's got a very good head on his shoulders. He's very open about his anxieties in the fight game. He even said stuff like, listen, I got the skills to compete with any of the top guys. I just know I don't have the experience right now. And like, what kind of fucking self-awareness is that? Isn't that the kind of stuff you like to hear from like a young up and coming prospect, Andrew?
Yeah, love to hear that. He's so aware of himself and his situation. But I think now, I mean, that Volkov win, if like that's got to give him all the confidence in the world to be able to fight any of those guys. Like I said earlier, I think Volkov has like 45 pro fights or something like that, and he's fought all those best guys in the division. We saw how easily Tom Aspinall got him out of there yesterday. So I don't think that experience issue is going to be an issue. Excuse me, that experience is going to be an issue for much longer because he's done rounds with Volkov, with Arlovsky, with guys who have been there, done that. So I think now he's probably going to be even more dangerous with that level of confidence that comes from experience.
100%. And I'm excited to see what happens when a fight gets extended. I'm just curious who is the guy that's going to extend him. But, you know, the only thing people point to is that Arlovsky fight that maybe kind of looked a little tired. But in my opinion, when you unload on a 50 strike combination on a dude and you're dead set that, okay, he's about to get out of there, the ref screaming, move fighter, move fighter. I mean, that's your chance to, hey, 2 more shots, we're going to get him out of there. So for some reason, Arlovsky survived, and you still see Aspinall go out there in that second round, land the takedown, and get a nice little rear naked choke to tap things off. So I like everything I see about this kid, and I can't wait to see what happens now that he's going to start fighting. I mean, Volkov's already the top echelon, but now we're breaking into the guys who, you know, are up there to potentially compete for the belt.
Amen. Yeah, the top five's calling him, calling his name.
Yes, sir. So before I let you go, because I got a couple other guests waiting for me here, was there any other fights that really stood out that surprised you that you have a big take on?
None that I really had a big take on. I think Arnold Allen had a really impressive performance. I bet Hooker there, and I had bet Allen in his last fight against Sadiq Youssef, and I thought this would be a good spot to get him. But Arnold Allen, I think he's won 8 or 9 fights in a row now. So I think he's due for something big next. So I just wanted to give Arnold Allen a shout out really quick. But yeah, I think he's maybe, I mean, they fought on the same card yesterday, but I don't know if he'd be down. But Arnold Allen versus Ilya Topuria could be something we see down the line as well, considering the schedules might line up because they both fought on yesterday's card. But I don't know if Allen would want that because he could probably get a better ranked fight next. But we'll see.
I mean, Topuria is a stud for sure. I just kind of think that, you know, Arnie's earned that 9-fight win streak. I think you know, him and Cater kind of makes more sense right now.
I'd be down for that for sure.
But Topuria definitely needs to move back to 45s. I do agree with that. But as far as Arnie's concerned, man, I feel like he really flies under the radar. And one thing I was talking about you can never win with people, because with Arnold Allen, he gets criticized for going to decision. Aspinall gets criticized for not going past the first round. So it's like you truly cannot win with people. Like nothing's ever good enough. But from what I see from Arnie, I mean, I see a guy that goes out there and choked out Mads Burnell, who a lot of people hold in high regard as a grappler. I see a guy who went out there and dropped Sodiq Yusuff, who I personally am very high on. And then you saw what he did to Dan Hooker. One doesn't simply just get Dan Hooker out of there like that. Now, obviously, there's questions about the weight cut, about all the damage he sustained over the years. I mean, that's the reason I bet Arnold Allen at dog money, but he's also been my dark horse for a very long time in that division. So I've always kind of been really high on him. And to me, you know, being a point fighter is not like a bad thing to me, because again, like I told you, we've seen him tap out real legit grapplers. We've seen him knock down real legit strikers, and I've seen him go the full 3-round distance and land over 100 significant strikes in a fight. So I literally like everything about Arnold Allen. It's just that when you got a guy like him who can, you know, barely speaks 2 words, doesn't quite get the hype that he deserves. But I think maybe with a performance like this, people are going to start to put some respect on his name.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? Like to your point, people just don't dispose of Dan Hooker like that. So Arnold Allen doing that in front of his home crowd in a co-main event slot, I think people are going to start to pay attention now.
Yeah, so he wants Cater, Cater wants him. I think that makes all the sense in the world. A June main event or maybe a pay-per-view co-main event. I think that's the next step for Arnie.
Sign me up.
Yes, sir. Well, Andrew, I appreciate you stopping by. Next time we'll do it for longer. I got some people waiting for me, but man, keep killing it, brother. And I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Cool, bro. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Absolutely. You as well. All right, y'all. So that's my boy Andrew Gombas doing his thing. Really cool dude. So yeah, but back to Arnold Allen, man. I've been so damn impressed with this kid. And real quick, I want to bring in my buddy James, who was actually at the event last night. I got to hear about how electric that crowd was. So, James, welcome to Half the Battle for the first time, buddy.
Hello, Dan. How you doing, bud?
Doing absolutely phenomenal. So, where in the UK are you from?
So I'm from Reading, so it's about, say, an hour away from London. So for me, it weren't too bad. I mean,
Reading and
driving
Leeds?
through London, if anyone knows, bit of a nightmare, but yeah, it was not too far for us to go.
You've been to the Reading and Leeds Festival before?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, when you're from here, it's kind of hard not to go to it.
Yeah. What about some Glastonbury?
I mean, personally, no, but I've known a few people that are gone, and yeah, music festivals, it's a bit of a big culture thing, really, over here.
Yeah, you know, I'm showing off my little UK knowledge over here, my man. But
you knew about it.
Hey, but listen,
well,
man,
we got Rage over here this year, so we're looking forward to seeing them.
So, James, you were at the event last night, and I mean, I just want to know how electric the crowd was. I mean, listen, I know that at one point Gunnar Nelson kind of killed the mood, but right after that, Paddy Pimblett, I mean, what was that walkout like? Because I kept hearing like all week about, dude, like they weren't even talking about his performance. They were talking about the walkout that Paddy Pimblett is going to have. What was your impression of that live? I mean, did you take it all in?
I mean, being from England, you knew what to expect straight away. Being a part of a Paddy Pimblett walkout is a surreal experience. I mean, especially if you're English yourself, because it's like a party atmosphere. I feel like that's when the UFC come to England. That's something that they don't get anywhere else. It's very much with football culture over here. It's very much everything is a celebration. And with him coming to the ring, it's very much a celebration in that yesterday. And yeah, I mean, from start to finish, the whole night, it's just a different atmosphere that you get from a UK crowd that you don't get from anywhere else. And I think that's what makes it so special when they come over here. I mean, Dana White's already been talking about coming back over here again. He doesn't care what the schedule says, but he wants to come back to the UK again for a second time this year. And, you know, I feel like where we stay up till 5 a.m. every single week to watch these cards, when we do get these, it's time for us to kind of let loose. And being there in that arena yesterday, it's safe to say that it was definitely a surreal atmosphere.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So what fight would you say stole the crowd the most? Like what had the biggest pop? Was it the walkout of Paddy? Was it the Molly McCann finish? I mean,
yeah, it's got to be Molly McCann. I mean, I had her going in by knockout going into the fight. Didn't think she'd do it that way. I mean, not a chance at all. She looked absolutely spectacular, and the whole crowd was behind her. I mean, it was going to happen anyway. I mean, all of the UK guys, really, apart from Jai Herbert, obviously, came out on top, and it was just a great night for everyone. I mean, she even came back out for Paddy Pimblett's fight, and just everybody loved it. It was one of them things where it's like not a single person in that crowd wanted to see anything different happen. And the fact that, I mean, the last 3 guys all had first round finishes, which is great for England. And yeah, I mean, Molly McCann coming through with that spinning elbow. I mean, she had to stole the show. It was 100% her. I mean, the belt thing may be a bit cringy, but she definitely stole the show.
I just want to know if homie got his replica belt back, because I know when I go to UFC events and I go to the merch table, like the replica belts are like fucking over $500. So I just hope little man, like as I heard, the dude was getting that belt signed by all the fighters. So for Molly to fucking take that piece of memorabilia from him, and if he didn't get it back, like, man, I'm gutted for the kid. So young man, if you're watching, I hope you got your belt back. But if you didn't, maybe we can start a GoFundMe and buy him a new one or something, you know. But James, before I get you out of here, man, you know, I saw the footage of after the fights, like motherfuckers are jumping on cop cars and going crazy on the streets. I mean, what was that like? How crazy was it?
I mean, if you've been to a football game over here, you just knew what to expect, and it just felt like a football atmosphere. I mean, soccer, should I say, talking on here. But yeah, it was just, that's what we bring to the table, really. It's all about, I don't know, like the culture over here is very much a release. Like everybody's such a working class person in the UK, and you get that atmosphere when you're at the UFC. I mean, over here, the UFC is a sport where you got a lot of casuals. I mean, with Conor McGregor, he's someone that, you know, translated across to us really well, because obviously he's like a hometownish kind of guy, and, you know, brought in a lot of casual fans. And when you go to these events, sometimes you catch them there and you're like, okay, these guys, they watch the prelim fights and they're like, who's this, who's that? And it's like, all right, and this is what you want to get them to be more, I don't know, diehard almost, or a bigger fan of the UFC. And guys translating across in these prelim fights. I mean, to me, the only bad fight on that card was the Gunnar Nelson fight. But I mean, we all knew that going in, what Gunnar Nelson was going to do. Gunnar Nelson's going to Gunnar Nelson. But yeah, look, I think in general, it's just the UK. Like, that's just what you get and what you expect. I mean, I think Dana White said, if you've never been to a UK card before, you need to get yourself down there. And I mean, for me, constantly going there every year, or well, whenever they come over here, like 3 years it's been, you have to do it. You absolutely have to do it. Last night was the best atmosphere I'd seen at a UFC event since I've started going to them, and I've been going to them for nearly 10 years now since they've been coming over here. Like, for me, it was the best one, and it's all tribute to Paddy the Baddy, really. The guys, the Liverpudlians, they just knew how to stole the show.
Yes, sir. So before I get you out of here, any last takeaways? I mean, you were the man at the arena. You got to experience that electrifying crowd. Like, let's just put it in context. All 9 finishes got bonuses. So, I mean, it must have been one of the most epic, electric fight cards you've ever seen in all your years watching the sport. Anything else that we need to know for all of us that weren't in there?
I think it's all about Makayev. I think for me, look, I know there's a lot of doubts going into it. I mean, he's got the greatest amateur record in the history of MMA or something dumb like that. Look, amateur fights don't mean 100% as a deal. But for me, he's proved it time and time out. And you can only beat what's in front of you. And I mean, what he did to Cody Durden was absolutely stunning. I mean, caught him with a flying knee, which I don't think anyone saw coming, really. And then he choked him out. I mean, look, it's going to be controversial, but I think, I mean, it's not controversial because a lot of people have been saying it, but he's definitely going to become a top 5 guy at some point for me. And obviously backing him, being a UK guy, obviously I'm going to want to see it, but I think he's going to be one of the next champions at flyweight. I mean, he's got the wrestling, he's starting to evolve with the striking. It's just a case of a matter of time. I mean, he's the youngest fighter on the roster as well. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but yeah, for me, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, that performance blew me away. I mean, I've seen Cody Durden's entire career, and no one's ever done him like that. Even the fights he's lost, he's had moments in all of them. He didn't have a single moment in this one. So props to Mokaev. I mean, that was very, very impressive. The kid's got the confidence, the age. Now it's just about, when you give a 21-year-old, is he 21 or is he like 19? How fucking old is this kid?
I think he's just at 22.
Okay, when you give a 22-year-old a 50K bonus, you just got to make sure he keeps his head on his shoulders. He's never seen money like that in his life, and just got to make sure that he doesn't go off the deep end. But if he keeps his head on his shoulders, man, based off what I saw last night, because going into it, to me, when your biggest talking point is your amateur career, that's a massive red flag for me. Because, like, to quote Allen Iverson, like, well, we talking about practice, like, you know what I'm saying, man? So to me, I was just like, yeah, okay, let's see it under the bright lights of the UFC octagon. Well, under the bright lights of the UFC octagon, he dropped and submitted a guy that's never been dropped, the guy who has been submitted, but you have to work to submit him. I mean, when Jimmy Flick submitted him, Jimmy Flick was taking a whooping. When this guy, I forgot the guy's name that submitted him like a long ass time ago, but that dude was getting whooped by Durden and was a comeback finish. So to actually get him out of there, clean kill, like normally when fighters take a loss, there's things to unpack, like, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. That wasn't the case here. This was all Mokaev, so much respect to him. And again, before I get you out of here, go ahead, please.
The charisma as well on him. I mean,
right, very confident.
In his post-fight interview, like, he knew how to try and win the crowd over. And I think, with the talking, he's got the package. And, well, it might come to regret saying it in a few years' time, but, I think he's got the total package, man, to become a bit of a star. And, the flyweight division's one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC now. And you've got another guy to add to that list.
Yes, sir. And real quick, someone messaged me saying my audio was a little off. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you perfect, mate.
Okay, good. All right. So lastly, anything else? Like I said, you were the guy there. Like, this is probably one of the most epic events you've ever seen. Anything else you want to tell me?
I mean, I was there in the building 3 years ago for Till Masvidal, and
how did they compare?
This one just blew it completely out the water. I mean, when you look at cards comparison as well, this is one of the better UK cards I think we've had for a while. I mean, in terms of European talent as well now, I think we've got a lot better in terms of the last 3 years. I mean, even if you look at people like Jai Herbert, I mean, look, the kid got beat, but he was putting it on to Poirier, and I think he did quite well. And what did he drop him twice or rock him twice? Rocked him once and dropped him twice. I mean, you haven't really seen Topuria go in trouble that much in the octagon, and I thought fair play to him. And he's probably one of the bottom of the barrel guys that we've got over here. I mean, I've got to say shout out to Paul Craig as well. You got to say fair play. I mean, the man was on the verge of retirement, literally like 2 seconds away from retiring, and he's now riding what, a 5-fight win streak, 6-fight win streak, something like that, and
against real dudes.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Nikita Krylov, when he obviously first never really lived up to the hype as Krylov, but to still submit him, you got to say fair play to him. And I mean, what's he calling Anthony Smith out next? I think that's a good fight to make. I think Smith's always like that gatekeeper type of role now, and I think with Paul Craig, I wouldn't say he's a title contender, but if he's able to beat Anthony Smith, he's definitely one away. I mean, look what he did to Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, in my opinion, the rematch will probably see a different outcome. But look, he was able to go in there and hand him, I think it was his first loss, right? You have to say fair play. And
Khalil's first loss too.
Yeah, he turned his career around massively. Beat Ankalaev, beat Jamal Hill. You just got to have nothing but respect for him.
Yes, sir. And what was the crowd reaction to that Paul Craig submission?
Everyone loved it. I mean, it was so quick. He was able to get his legs up so fast. I mean, he was getting absolutely battered. Like, he was getting smashed on the floor, and then all of a sudden, them legs thrown up. And before you knew it, Krylov's tapping on the mat. And that was it. It was all over. I mean, it's safe to say a few beers were thrown up in the air throughout the night. I mean,
that's what I was wondering.
Oh, mate, I took my coat with me, and all of a sudden, I was drenched in beer by the end of the main event. And I was like, how's this happen? Like, nah, it shouldn't be happening. I mean, like I said, you get it at football, you expect it at football. But when I was at a UFC event, it's never happened like that before. And it was something completely different that was brought, completely different.
Yes, sir. Well, James, I do appreciate your time. I'm glad you had a amazing night, and here's to many more UFC UK events as electrifying and epic as last night's was, man. So I appreciate your time, buddy. If you want to tell them where to follow you, go ahead, and if not, we'll speak soon.
I mean, I'll have to find my Twitter quick. I mean, for me, I don't really mind. I'm just glad to be here, man. Just happy to speak to you. It's been a while. I say we've been chatting for a few years now, and yeah, it's good to finally say hello. Like James Higgins 316. If you want to follow me, I mean, I used to post my bets on there, but I ain't really been doing that no more. But yeah, follow me if you like a random kid from the UK liking the Chicago Bulls. I mean, come shout me.
Well, I'm an ATL Hawks fan, but you know what, man? Much respect to you, buddy. Look forward to speaking again, and I'm glad you had a blast last night.
I'll talk to you again soon, Dan. Cheers.
All right, buddy. Take care. Now we're gonna get in my boy Gordo Gambles. Hey, this is a man of his word right here. We made a shoey bet. Listen, I made like 3 shoey bets last night, so I don't remember which one we made. What was ours again? Was
Main
on the
event.
Main event. Okay, so yeah, I had Aspinall, you had Volkov. You're a man of your word. Like, so when I did that shoey bet on the Tagir versus Tim Elliott fight, like it took me like 2 days to like post it. Like my dude over here did it like within an hour. So much respect to you. And for everyone asking, he's of the legal age in Canada where he lives, so it's all good.
No
how's
worries.
it going, buddy? It's nice to meet
Hey,
you for the first time.
pleasure as well. Thanks for having me on. And let me just say there was no better card to do a shoey to. Like I was super happy to do it yesterday just because it was so electrifying. It was such a good card to watch. So it was fun. I was actually on the same side as you. So it was a win both sides. Either I would make some money on Aspinall or I'd do a shoey. Or you do a shoey. So it was fun to watch and it worked out well.
That's a great attitude you got there, young man. So that's awesome. What was your couple favorite fights, performances? I mean, what was your takeaways from this card?
Well, you did a great job breaking it down, and your guest beforehand as well. It was a pleasure watching. But I think what we need to talk about more is that Topuria fight. Really, we were able to see him face a little bit of adversity, and I know a guy in Jai Herbert who hasn't had the most experience the best experience in the UFC facing killers. He's able to go out there and show that Topuria is not perfect. But when a lot of people hating on Topuria getting dropped and showing some holes in his game plan, I actually like that for Topuria. He was able to fight against the adversity, fight against the odds, recover. We were able to see some things we haven't seen from him recently, and I think that goes to show that, especially to get his weight cut under control, that he may be even more of a problem than people think. I know that a lot of people were on that fact that he got dropped, his chin's not perfect, but he recovered so fast. And I think that was a really fun fight to watch. Definitely got me on the edge of my seat with those Topuria bets in hand. But that fight was one I think that not a lot of people are talking about. And I think more people should be.
Now let's talk about it right now. I mean, listen, this kid Topuria, I mean, you can't criticize the balls, you can't criticize the heart, the chin, the will to win, the power, the accuracy, the ground game. I mean, I think he's got a lot of great things, but I also think that we got to go back to 145 pounds, man. You cannot 100%. Be at 155. I mean, listen, I know Jai Herbert is officially 1-3 in the UFC, but to Jai Herbert's credit, he's had moments in all 4 UFC fights he's had, man. He went out there, he dropped Trinaldo. And I mean, when you're making your UFC debut against a guy like Trinaldo, like, don't expect no adversity. Trinaldo is a guy with over 20 UFC fights, a guy that's been in the company for so damn long. At one point, even had a 7-fight win streak. No shame in losing that. Moicano, you see what he's up to these days, man. I mean, no shame in that. Kama Worthy handled Kama Worthy accordingly, and then comes out here as like a plus 500 underdog, drops Topuria, knocks his mouthpiece out with a knee. He was doing his thing. It's just that, there's a famous quote by Floyd Mayweather. It's it's one thing to give it, but can you take it too? And that's the big issue there. He couldn't take it too, but it also let me know that some of these other guys, they're not going to lose their composure. Some of these other guys, what I'm talking about, like when you drop the kid, they're not going to just go crazy. And like I feel like a guy like Movsar Evloev, if they were scheduled to fight at one point, like I still think that that's a different fight. Evloev ain't just going to go down to the first punch, and Evloev is actually going to push him and give him a real fight. And honestly, up until last night, the one time that Topuria did go out the first round was against Yusuf Zalal, former bantamweight. Now, I bet on Topuria in that fight at dog odds. You significantly gassed in that third round. Now, you can make the excuse, was it short notice, this and that, maybe not. But the bottom line is I still have questions about Topuria. And the reason I'm talking in these terms, and I do want to give him all the credit he deserves, because, I mean, the combo he landed, beautiful. The adversity he overcame, beautiful. I mean, like, I can't say enough good. It's just that when you're referring to someone as a future top 5, future top champion, which is what I've heard people regard him as, I need more questions answered. And I think that fight with Movsar Evloev is the one that's going to answer those questions. And I would still take the plus 110 odds on Evloev in a spot like that, because I think that he can push him to a place that he's never been before. And to Toporia's credit, this isn't the first time that he's been dropped with a head kick and came back and won in a fight. Actually, his last fight before his UFC debut, same thing happened. He got dropped with a head kick, comes out there and viciously knocks the guy out after that. So you can't question the heart, the power, the skill, everything at Topuria. Is just too small for 55s. Got to get the weight cut shit in order for 45. If he does that, I think he's got a bright future. I just think he needs to truly be tested versus a top guy next.
Now, I don't know if this is just my Canadian bias speaking, but I kind of want to see that Jourdain fight again. I know it was a huge wide line and a lot of people were taking Topuria to steamroll him, but I think that'd be fun. Like a guy in Jourdain's a guy who maybe doesn't have the best striking defense, but he can take a punch. I think that could go later. Of course, the ground game, the takedown defense would be a bit different, but I would love to see a nice little fight between them, maybe more than others, but I think that's definitely another stepping stone for him here. I know the Evloev fight's a completely different level. I think that's a really good one to watch. And I would be on the Evloev side with you as well, but I really want to see how he goes and faces a guy who can take a shot and who can stake up with him, because maybe I'm higher on Jourdain than other people, but I think that'd be really fun to watch.
What I love about Jourdain is the incremental improvements every single time. What I love about Jourdain is that this is a guy who hasn't been fighting easy competition. I mean, we're talking about, Desmond Green on short notice up a weight class to start things off. You guys might not remember the name Des Green, but let's just put it this way. That guy's a tough out. Goes in there against the Korean Superboy, I believe overseas, knocks him out. And then the next fight against Andre Fili, to fight Andre Fili, who's as seasoned and experienced as anyone in the weight class, a guy who's literally been in there with everybody, a guy who, even if he drops a lot of fights, he still gives you a really tough out. I mean, he went to a split decision with that kid. Obviously he had the draw with the kid from down under, but you know what, man, the way he's been bouncing back, I see incremental improvements every single time. And we got to remember, Jourdain's just a kid. What is he, 25, 26? You see what I'm saying? With kids like that, and once he starts to feel like the octagon is his home and this is where he truly belongs, I think we are going to see some epic performances from him. So I would be down to see that matchup. It'd be a very wide line. I still just really want to see this Evloev fight, because
Me too.
They were giving me plus 110 on Evloev, and I get it. Like, I could get plus 450 on Jourdain, but like Evloev's a guy who I think maybe the way people regard Topuria is like the way I regard Evloev. Like, back when he was fighting an M1, like I was calling him mini Khabib. So to see what he's done in the octagon now, and back to what I was talking about earlier, these guys that can just relentlessly shoot takedown after takedown after takedown without getting discouraged. It's a style that's going to give so many people so many problems. And I want to see what those deep waters look like in a fight between Evloev and Topuria. So that's what I want to see. But dude, obviously, would I not watch a Jourdain versus Topuria fight? Are you fucking kidding me? That fight would be bonkers while it lasts. So yeah, I'm down with either of those. So before I get you out of here, man, any other takeaways? Anything else you want to let the fans know?
Well, I just want to talk about that Shore fight real quick. I'm a big Jack Shore fan, so to watch that go down, he was able to fight through that. I think it was a great pace, a great fight. He was able to show a very diverse skill set as well. And we've known all these things, but what people were saying this week is he hasn't really shown that he's excelled over the top level of competition. Well, sometimes you don't have to. You've talked about it multiple times. You can never do anything right. Either you're a decision machine or you're a first round finish guy. No matter what, you can't do anything right. And I think that whereas the line was absolutely steamrolled, the way it was at like plus 150, and Shore being just a guy who's just so smart that I don't know how much of a dog he should beat almost anybody here. Of course, that's saying a lot. I don't want to jump ahead of myself here, but in a guy like Valiev, who is super, super tough in the division, he was able to show that he was smart enough to have a very diverse skill set and fight through a lot there. I think it was a great fight. I'm excited to see him get back in there. Valiev as well. He's fought some great guys, so I also think he has some good upside. But that was a really fun fight, and I was excited to hear what you thought of it.
I mean, I am so impressed with this kid, Jack Tank Shore. I mean, firstly, I know my boy Uncle Weezy's listening right now, and I want him to hear what I got to say. When you look at the numbers on a guy like Jack Tank Shore, even coming into this fight, because I know he ate a couple more punches here, so the significant strikes absorbed went up, but still, I mean, he doubles basically what he lands to what he eats. The striking accuracy is there. The takedown defense is 84%. And to take it a step further, when he got taken down, you saw that get up. I mean,
oh yeah.
And Timur Valiev wasn't there to just tell people about the time he fought in the UK against their top prospect. Timur Valiev was there to win that fight. And even when Timur Valiev got dropped in that third round, he's still standing up, telling him, come on, kid, like bring it. So that was the kind of fight Jack Shore needed to get to that next level, because the criticism with him was always the level of competition. You know, it's easy to fucking, you know, that Ludovic Shaolonian guy that he fought, like it's easy to go put a clinic on him, which by the way, when Nathaniel Wood was supposed to fight the Ludovic guy, like, dude, that would have been like one of my biggest bets of all time. Like that kid had no business in there, but Jack Shore treated him like he had no business in there. Jack Shore, he ran through his first couple, had, you know, a tough fight with Hunter Asher, but those are the kind of fights you need to grow and learn. I mean, we're talking about a kid. Now I think he's older than you, but we're talking about a kid that was born in 1995. I wouldn't know what the fuck it means to be born in 1995. And I think he's wise beyond his years. I think he's someone we need to look out for. And just the fact that he can overcome these bad spots, like I said, that get up game when he got taken down against Valiev. It's not like it's easy to just say, oh, he got taken down by Valiev and he got back up. But why don't we talk about the hectic pace they were pushing, and then he got taken down by Valiev? None of us would have held it against him if he took a little breather there. None of us would have held it against him if he said, you know what, let's just conserve my energy, let's stay down here, and then next round I'm gonna come out firing. But that's not what this guy did. He gets back up and gets back to work, and then gets takedowns of his own. So I love everything about this kid, Jack Shore, in terms of a guy that's going to go out there and win fights. And I think the future is very bright. And had there been a fight of the night, I think this would have been one of the, you know, front runners, one of the top candidates for it.
No, it was super fun to watching you hit it. Like his IQ is what makes him so good as well. And I love to see that. I'm very excited to see him back in there again.
Absolutely. So Gordo, anything else before I let you out?
No, I really enjoyed watching the card, and thank you for having me on. I'm a DFS player at heart too, so seeing all those finishes really made me happy. So no, I appreciate you for having me on. If you guys want to check out my work, Gordo Gambles on Twitter. Thanks for having me once again, and happy you did well this weekend. Look forward to the next Shoey bet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And props for being a man of your word. I will do it again. We'll
Always.
be in touch, man. And best of luck to you. All right.
Sounds good. Have a good one, man.
You too. Now I'm gonna bring in the man himself. It's funny. This is the first time I've ever gotten to talk to you face to face. I think we might have done like a FaceTime call a while back, but this is the first time I get to talk to you on the show. My man, Uncle Weezy, someone I got a lot of respect for, someone who is doing things, you know, by the beat of his own drum, and that's the kind of shit I respect. There's so much fucking groupthink on MMA Twitter, and I know that you take the roads less traveled. I know you go by your own process and your own process only, and that's something I respect. And not to mention, you're a good dude. So, Uncle Weezy, welcome to Half the Battle.
Dude, the Half the Battle debut for Uncle Weezy. I'm fired up, Dan. I've been watching you for such a long time, man. And I just wanted to say that when I first started doing videos, you sent me a DM. We had never talked, never met, nothing. And you just said, keep up the good work, young man. And that shit meant so much to me. Just wanted to say, when you reached out to me that one time when I first started, it really was, it was important to me. It felt great to hear that from somebody that I had so much respect for, that was doing such great work in the space. So when you said, you know, you could pop on for 5 minutes today, I had to jump at the opportunity, man. And plus, that card last night was so great, dude. It's just good to talk about it, because since I started doing Stat Diggers on Sundays on Pub Sports Radio, you know, I have to, as soon as that card is over on Saturday, I'm like getting ready for the show on Sunday. I'm getting ready for next week's fights. I don't get a chance to kind of just sit and break down the fights from the night before, enjoy it, talk about what it means to the UFC, where we go forward from these fights. So it's good to just chop it up with you and talk about last night for once.
Yeah, man, the pleasure's all mine. I meant everything I said. So you heard me talk about Aspinall, you heard me talk about Arnold Allen, and honestly, I can keep talking about those guys. So, but tell me some of the ones that stood out to you, man. I mean, what was I know you had the ass shaving on Sergey Pavlovich, and he took care of business. You want to talk about that one first?
Yeah, we could talk about that one. That is just one where sometimes so when I try to pick the ass shaving of the week, you know, there's like two things that I look for. You know, you got to look for it on both sides. You got to say, you know, you're picking one of the best fighters on the card, one of the most complete fighters on the card to dominate another fighter. And then you're also looking for a fighter on the other side, the guy that's going to get their ass shaved, you know, to kind of have some holes in the places where the other fighter is going to be strong. You know, I was this close to making Corey McKenna the ass shaving of the week, because if she fought smart, she could have taken that girl down whenever she wanted. She could have accrued top control whenever she wanted, and she could have just won minutes and banked rounds. And she didn't do that. She stood in front of her with a 3.5-inch reach disadvantage, with a striking disadvantage, with a volume disadvantage. She fought a really bad game plan. But the reason I didn't pick Corey instead of Sergey is because you look at a guy like Sergey, man, and he looks like a video game character. You know, I mean, like, he's got that body that looks like he has to cut weight to make 265. He's got a head like an Easter Island statue. It seems like you would need a baseball bat, you know, in order to knock that guy down. And then on the other side, there's Shamil, who's 40, coming off a punctured lung. You know, he had dropped out of like 5 straight
punctured
fights.
lung?
Punctured lung. Dude, before the Dawkins fight, he took 2.5 years off. He had a punctured lung. He pulled out of 4 straight fights. You know, and it's a 40-year-old heavyweight that wasn't really known for being terribly explosive for the division in the first place. So, yeah, it just felt like if Pavlovich didn't slip on a banana peel, that he should be able to go out there, land a big shot, and finish the guy. And that's exactly what happened.
And when you say punctured lung, was it something that Curtis Blades did to him, or was it something that happened like in training camp, or what?
It probably was something that happened in training camp, because he had pulled out of fights, you know, that were fairly close to after the Blades fight. You know, so I think what happened was in training, something happened. You know, like even Gunnar Nelson, who we just saw last night. I mean, that dude had a very similar injury right up here with the rib when he was rolling around with that dude, the Mountain from Game of Thrones. There's video of him, you know, grappling with that dude. And at one point, Gunnar's on the bottom and he goes for an arm bar. And when he locks up the arm bar, he rolls to get on top. And when he does that, the Mountain's like, no. And he pushes down on Gunnar and he broke the rib right up here, the top rib. So that's why we didn't see Gunnar Nelson for 2.5 years. So usually those things, they happen in training camp, I guess. But, you know, it was just one of those things. He had a fighter that was 28, is a big-time winner, tons of power, actually has shown some decent cardio to go along with the size that he has. And then on the other side, he got a guy who's lost 3 in a row, coming off a punctured lung, on the wrong side of 40. So it was just one of those ones. I'm really glad I didn't make it Corey McKenna, because I lost about a little under a half unit yesterday. But if Corey McKenna gets that decision, I'm up 4 units. So she broke my heart, Dan.
Yeah, see, I didn't put as much stock into him being 40 because, look, if he was a bantamweight, I would have. But for heavyweights, actually, I've seen a lot of career resurgences as they get older. Then my boy Randy Couture won the belt at like fucking 45 or some shit. And you see, like when Fabricio Werdum went on his resurgence, it was towards, you know, late 30s, early 40s. So heavyweight, I don't put much stock into that. But those last few performances by Shamil, I put a lot of stock into that because he just hasn't been looking like the same guy. But you got to put it into context. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Shamil who knocked out Marcin Tybura, a guy who he fought Derek the Black Beast Lewis, won the first 3 rounds. Had that been a 3-round fight, it was a 30-27, got stopped in the 4th. He's been in there with legit guys. And this kid, Sergey Pavlovich, obviously, you know, in the UFC, every fight's gone to the first round. But outside the UFC, I saw him go out there, win 5-round decisions.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering why he had been out so long. Was it a thing where, you know, not to make speculation, but while I'm about to make speculation, I mean,
don't speculate, Dan. It was visa issues.
Was he dealing with a USADA thing we didn't know about? It was it a visa issue? Was it an injury? Like, so I didn't really know what to expect. But if he showed up like the last few guys we've seen, he was going to take care of business. That's exactly what he did. Big win by Sergey Pavlovich, and I'm excited to see him. Let me pull up the rankings real quick, and let's see who we should match him up with next, because currently Sergey Pavlovich is actually unranked. However, he just beat the number 10 guy. You know my theory. You beat the number 10 guy, you are the number 10 guy. So I think Marcin Tybura's got a fight coming up with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I mean, fuck it, put him in there with the winner of Jairzinho and Tybura. Put him in there with you know, maybe even a Chris Dawkins. If Chris Dawkins doesn't get it done this weekend against Blades, put him in there with Dawkins. So I'm saying Dawkins, Tybura, or Jairzinho next for Sergey Pavlovich. Unless you just want to usher Walt Harris out the rankings, but like I feel like, can we give Walt Harris like some kind of like consolation prize, like a Stefan Struve, just to finally get him?
We got to bring Smolyakov out of retirement, Dan. We got to just bring him out of retirement, get his ass shaved one more time so that we can get Walt Harris a win. I'd love to see Walt Harris get a win. And
let him have his moment.
He's losing, dude. He's so close to winning. I really like Walt Harris. It'd be nice to see him get a win. I'd love to see them bring some can out of retirement to chalk up a win for Walt, get him on a winning streak here.
I know my boy Augusto Sakai's seen better days, but as of this current moment, he's ranked ahead of Sergey, so maybe put him in there with him, something like that.
That'd be a good matchup, man. There's a lot of good matchups for Sergey, and I think Sergey's only 28, Dan. You know, so you can imagine that the sky is the limit for this kid because he's even shown some decent takedown defense on the regional scene as well. So if he can keep fights standing, he's just terrifying, a guy with that kind of strength and power.
Absolutely. So, Uncle Weezy, I appreciate your time. Before I let you go, any last takeaways, anything that really stood out, anything you got to get off your chest, let me know, man.
Man, Molly McCann is just awesome. She's so much fun to watch. She might not be a future champion, but I'll be tuning in every single time she fights. And when she fights in London, it's like 10 times better. What a performance by Molly McCann last night. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Paddy Pimblett is so much fun. Tom Aspinall just going out there and, I mean, just 10-8ing a grizzled veteran who's fought the best in Volkov. I can't wait to see what's next for Aspinall. I mean, dude, that card was so great from top to bottom. You talked a lot about Ilya Topuria already. I can't wait for that dude's next fight. He's a mixture of power and grappling, which we haven't seen for a very long time. Paul Craig doing what Paul Craig does. Jack Shore, Muhammad Makayev. That was just a really fantastic card. I'm glad we got to talk about it for a little bit. I'm glad we got to do this face-to-face, Dan. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. And next time, like, we'll do it for longer. Just got some guests waiting on me. This was like a last-minute impromptu stream, and I asked all my guests last minute. So much respect to all of them, yourself included, for stepping up. Uncle Weezy, it's been an absolute pleasure. And mark my words, we'll speak very soon. All right.
Sounds good, man. Yeah. Good luck to everybody else out there. I'm going to start getting ready for Stat Diggers tonight, man. You have a good one, Dan.
Yes, sir. Take care, brother.
Later.
And now I'd like to bring in the man himself, the genius, Brett Appley. This is a guy who, I mean, I cannot say enough good things about. I can go on forever. Brett, welcome to Half the Battle.
What's going on, Dan? It's great to see you. And God, I mean, you and Uncle Weezy, my favorite people in the world. I wouldn't quite call myself a genius, so to speak, but it's great to talk to you. It's been a while, and I mean, God, what a fun card we had yesterday.
Yeah, we really did, man. That's nice that you're humble, but it's funny because people don't really know your sense of humor, and I know you've been taking a lot of heat lately, which is actually kind of funny to me, because it's like, if people really know, like, you have to really get to know Brett Appley and get to know his process and get to know also his sense of humor as well to really understand. And since I do understand, like, I'm all in on Brett Appley, bro. Like, I am a Brett Appley truther, like I said, man. So it's just great to have you on here. And dude, what are some of your takeaways from this card?
Well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure you were referencing the my Colby Covington, Peter Yan takes, and I forget, what was I taking shit for yesterday? Ilya Topuria.
There's so many things. Oh, and by the way, I tagged you in something. I don't know if you saw it, because it was funny. Because you know how Gunnar Nelson has this atrocious volume, like, we're talking about to the point.
Yeah.
I bet Brett Appley knows this off the top of his head, that the most strikes Gunnar Nelson's ever landed in a fight was in a 5-round fight against Rick Story, where he landed 53 strikes. Is that not some of the most atrocious numbers you've ever seen? We're talking about Johnny Walker versus Thiago Santos numbers.
Well, and it's funny just because clearly people look at fights from a different lens than I do. So when you tagged me yesterday and you were saying, I forget who it was, but someone said, you know, Nelson striking so calculated, and I just don't look at it at the same. Like, I look at it as a fighter who's pretty much incapable of winning clean rounds because he just doesn't throw enough volume, and that's one of the major factors that I use in my research, volume production. And so a fighter like that, I mean, you know, Nelson was a heavy favorite over Sato because he's still an elite grappler, and Sato doesn't have fantastic takedown defense. And we saw the back control, but I mean, for as long as that fight played out on the feet, or was expected to play out on the feet, there was no reason for me to be confident, because as much as Nelson is calculated, he doesn't throw enough strikes. I think he landed 10 distance strikes in 7 minutes. I mean, that you just, it's a style that's very, very difficult to trust from a betting perspective, especially as a big favorite, especially, against an opponent who could defend his takedowns, unlike Sato was able to.
I'm salivating at the thought of fading Gunny Nelson again, man. I mean, you're talking about, hey, look, you beat Sato, congrats. But now let's go ahead and test you against one of our prospects, whether it's Shavkat Rakhmonov. Let's get Miguel Baeza back on track. Any of these kids coming up, Hamzat's beyond that, but still, any of these guys coming up, like, because one thing I like to talk about, and I talk about it all the time, is how a lot of these guys are about to be ushered out the rankings. Like, for example, you look at the lightweight division. Number 7 is Tony Ferguson. Number 8 is Dan Hooker. Now, guys, all due respect to these guys who have paid their dues, given us blood, sweat, and tears on that canvas, and just put on some of the best fights of all time. But if you mean to tell me that Tony Ferguson is going to keep that number 7 spot when you got these killers like Rafael Fiziev, Armin Sarukian, Mateus Gamrot, Brad Riddell, like, you're telling me these guys aren't about to usher them out, and then to take it to the welterweight division, you're telling me that these guys like Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny, Jorge Masvidal, Jorge is ranked number 7, Wonderboy's ranked number 6, Magny's ranked number 9, Chiesa number 10. You mean to tell me that these guys like Hamzat Chimaev and Shavkat Rakhmonov are not just about to come usher them out the rankings? So it's kind of beautiful, actually, what we're about to see with this, Lion King quote, circle of life.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Nelson was just one of a handful of fighters who I liked yesterday, and I predicted to have success, but not fighters who going forward I'm going to be heavy on necessarily. Like, Nelson was in a good spot against Sato, but he's definitely not a fighter who I would be trusting unless I am so certain that he's going to be able to land takedowns, take the back. He's just not aggressive enough. And similarly with fighters like Pimblett, with fighters like Topuria potentially, and even further down the card, Mokaev. There's a lot of fighters here who they had great performances, and I think it's going to impact betting lines in the future, but just not fighters that I'm expecting to be trusting as they progress in their careers.
Now, I want to talk to you about Arnold Allen, because listen, I know you're a numbers guy, and I might be a bit of a numbers guy these days as well. And I got such a bone to pick with some of these numbers I see on Arnold Allen. Like, Brett, I don't believe for a second that he only landed 21 significant strikes against Sodiq Yusuff. Like, I watched that fight, and like, I'm on the edge of my seat. That's like a high level prospect fight. Like, you can't look me in the eye with a straight face and tell me he only landed 21 significant strikes against Sodiq Yusuff. And then to take it a step further, I just feel this kid's so underrated, because you talk about, what do you want to see in a fighter? Well, I know Brett wants to see a guy that can go 3 rounds and land over 100 significant strikes. He's done that. I know Brett wants to see a guy who can go out there, tap out legit grapplers, tapped out Mads Burnell. I know Brett wants to see a guy that can go out there, knock out real strikers, drop Sodiq Yusuff, finish Dan Hooker. Like, and the guy is defensively responsible. Like, what is there not to like about Arnold Allen? That's what I want to know, because I'm not buying these numbers.
Well, so that was one of the only fights I got wrong yesterday. And I picked Hooker because I just, in the way that my process works, I thought Hooker had a pretty good chance to use his range he's just generally a little bit more active than Allen. And it wasn't a fight where I was like, oh, Allen's very likely to knock Hooker out in the first round, because outside of a durability angle, I just didn't see that outcome. I didn't see Allen having a ton of success on the ground. So I did pick Hooker, and I'm not totally sure what to think about that result. But as far as like the metrics themselves, yeah, maybe Allen did land more than 21 significant strikes, but you still have to look at it in the frame of whether it was 21 strikes in 15 minutes or 25 or 30 or 35 or 40 or 50. That's not enough. 50 significant strikes in 15 minutes is not enough. So even if the 21 number against Yusuff wasn't accurate, it's still within a range that's too low for my liking. And when you look historically throughout Allen's career, I mean, 63 strikes in a decision. His standout performance against Melendez was 102, and then 37 against Rinaldi, 29 against Burnell, 32 against Amir Khani, 31 against Meza. So historically, he doesn't land tremendous volume, and that doesn't mean he's incapable of pushing the pace like we saw against Melendez. And God, I mean, his first round against Hooker was the fastest he's ever fought. And if he could fight a little bit more aggressively, I think that would help him a tremendous amount in being able to edge out these competitive rounds going forward against legitimate competition. And so, and I'm curious what you think about that performance against Hooker, because I haven't talked to you about it, and I'm just not so sure what to take away from it, because I didn't think that it was very smart of Hooker to pressure Allen like that in a manner where he was so defensively vulnerable. And I thought it was brilliant from Allen to, respond by throwing a shit ton of strikes, and he kept up a pace that Hooker could not keep up with. But like, I would have liked to see that fight play out a little longer, because I would assume Allen would not have been able to keep up that pace in round 2 and round 3. And I would have liked to see ground exchanges. And I still have trouble identifying exactly where he's going to have major advantages over the top tier of this division. Like, I still don't think he may not be dominated on the ground, but I don't think he's going to easily out wrestle the ranked fighters of this division. I don't think he's easily going to be able to knock them out. And so ultimately, if we do see fights of his that progress into round 2, progress into round 3, and he fights with his historically low volume, it's still just going to be a concern for me against fighters who push a pace. So I was really impressed with the few minutes that I saw from Allen, but it's just a tough performance for me to, change my process or change my mind about him completely. Like, I'm curious, what do you think his ceiling is in this division?
Well, I mean, I said like over a year ago, I thought he was the dark horse of the division. I've been high on this kid since day one. What you got to understand is that if the openings aren't there, yeah, he's going to play it safe. But I think the thing that people aren't understanding here is that he didn't just come out here and bum rush Hooker. That's not what happened. He caught Hooker in exchange, and you saw a jolt go through Hooker's body. He got rocked. And when Arnold Allen smells blood, he goes for it. Like, even you go back to a fight with Jordan Rinaldi. Yeah, he's playing it safe, picking him apart on the outside. But as soon as Rinaldi showed him any weakness, you saw the madman come out of Arnold Allen. And against Sodiq Yusuff, I mean, you can't just trade recklessly with a guy with that Nigerian power. Like, what happens when Sodiq Yusuff starts teeing off on these guys. But when he found his openings, man, I mean, dropping Sodiq like that twice. But in this fight specifically, listen, I think that Dan Hooker put the pressure on him right away. And one thing about Dan Hooker, the reason I was so confident on the dog money on Arnold Allen is because look at Dan Hooker's history, man. Now I'm talking about from day one to day now. Day one, 2014, Maximo Blanco absorbs 132 significant strikes. Go up to the Edson Barboza fight, absorbs 126 significant strikes. Go up to the fight with Paul Felder, absorbs 110. Dustin Poirier, 153. How many times can you keep eating shot after shot after shot? I think that Dan Hooker is overconfident in his chin, and for good reason. I mean, to drop a guy like Dan Hooker, one doesn't simply do. It's just at some point with a style like that, when you're so confident, overconfident, and reliant on your ability to take a shot, like at some point that's going to wane. And the fact that Arnie did catch him with that beautiful straight left right off the bat, Arnie saw blood and Arnie went after it. And people trying to say there's some early stoppage. Firstly, there was zero protest from Dan Hooker. When that got stopped, Dan Hooker, hands are on his knees like, oh my God, holy shit, what the hell just happened? And people were trying to write off Hooker's past fights at 45s. Dude, I made good money betting on fucking Jason Knight at dog odds against Hooker. I made good money on Yair against Hooker. And he left 145 for a reason. It's just that all the wars have caught up to you. When you've eaten that many significant strikes and you're that hittable, Like, you cannot be that hittable against a guy like Arnold Allen, who, yeah, he might play it safe if you play it safe, but if you take risks against him, he's going to find those openings, and he found his opening, and he turned up on him and got him out of there. So I just personally thought he was going to outclass him wherever the fight went. I didn't know if it was going to be a decision, a knockout, a sub. I was cool with whatever. I just thought that he's a step ahead, and this is his weight class. People talked about how shredded Hooker was. No one mentioned a word about the kind of shape that Allen was in, not to mention the energy difference. You saw when they were walking out, Hooker was kind of too calm, too mellow. Arnie's full of energy, and I just think that if you're a guy that relies on blocking punches with your face, and you have so much pride in that Kiwi chin, Arnie's not the guy you want to test it against. And Arnie went out there and made a statement. And if more guys want to take more risks against Arnie, he's gonna have more performances like that. So I just love everything about this kid, man. But it's all matchup dependent. If someone's going to come in here and actually fight him, he'll fight back. If these guys are broken before the fight even starts, then yeah, maybe he can just play it safe. But a guy like Dan Hooker isn't about to take a knee for no one. And even in that ass whooping, he didn't go down. So respect to Hooker. But man, I think that Arnie is a force to be reckoned with. I want to see that Calvin Kattar fight.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't really think the loss had anything to do with the weight class. I'm not looking at his fights from 5-6 years ago at 145. I thought he looked fine at 145. I thought he ate a ton of punches. He didn't get dropped. I thought he looked fine. And to me, the weight class, it wasn't a weight class issue. I would be fine seeing Dan Hooker at 145 again. The issue, like you mentioned, is that he's blocking punches with his face. And back to the metrics. We talked about Arnold's, historic kind of lack of volume, but to his credit, there's a give and take. Because it's fine if you only land 2 strikes a minute, like Islam Makhachev. If you're absorbing 0 strikes a minute, that's still okay. And Allen's absorbing 2.2 strikes per minute with a 66% striking defense. So although he's not the most active fighter in the world, he's very defensively sound. And the concern with fighters like that sometimes is that it's okay, you can outland Jordan Rinaldi 40-20 and your numbers look great, your defense looks great. What happens against a fighter who actually throws 5 significant strikes per minute, who's technical instead of the 2 like Jordan Rinaldi does? And then they still keep their same low pace and their defense starts to decline. Where in this particular matchup, once again, Allen got ahead on the numbers and he landed far more strikes than he absorbed. So it's still the matchup in the stats sense played out very well for Allen. And on the flip side, Hooker, although he does land strikes at a higher rate historically, his defense has also been very, very poor. He's absorbing 4.8 strikes per minute with a 51% striking defense. So if you have if you're worse at absorbing strikes than your opponent and you're pressuring like that, it's just, I felt that it was a stylistic issue for Hooker in hindsight. I thought potentially there are ways that Hooker could have had more success in that fight, but when you do have poor defense and you pressure someone like that aggressively, who historically is better at landing strikes than they are at absorbing them, you're going to get yourself into trouble. And that's kind of been more of the issue throughout Hooker's career. So this isn't a case for me next time where I will, let's say Hooker comes back at 145. I'm not going to be oh my God, he's at 145 again, writing him off. He looked so bad. It's a case where I'm going to say, well, regardless of what weight class he's at, I don't like the way he defends strikes. And that is the ultimate concern for me with Hooker moving forward.
Yeah, look, I still think he can go out there and beat a Bruce Leroy. It's just when you're talking about the Sodiqs, the Arnold Allens, I even think Giga Chikadze is going to give him some problems if they fight. Guys like that, it's just, you at some point, man, when you absorb over 100 significant strikes, on multiple occasions, that, the chin's got to diminish, the confidence in the chin's got to diminish. And to his credit, he still didn't go down, which is fucking crazy, man. So what a stud, man. And I'm just excited that Arnie, finally, he needed this fight right here to let people know that this ain't a joke, that, because again, this is something I was talking about at the beginning of the show, and I'm glad you're here for this. You can never truly win with people. With Aspinall, he doesn't go past the first round. With Allen, oh, he just scrapes by decisions. It's like, okay, so like
you have to be very careful in this game because it's very easy to form biases, and like everyone does it, myself included. Like there are fighters who you kind of take stands on, and it's very easy to just write things off here and there. And you have to like actively figure out whether your bias is getting in the way of the analysis. So just as an example, with Tom Aspinall, I did pick Tom Aspinall to win inside the distance, but I was really, really concerned about an extended fight. I was concerned about the cardio, just because we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him in an extended fight. We haven't seen him in round 3, 4, 5. And prior to the fight against Volkov, like I thought he had potential, but it was kind of a real borderline thing. Like I really thought Volkov might have won that fight. I just felt it was a difficult fight to predict, to make guesses on. But then, and even in the way Aspinall won, granted, we still didn't see an extended fight. I still have my concerns about him, but I just feel like it's just so clear now that like the rest of his game is just like a level ahead of probably the majority of the division. I mean, and I said it on Twitter, but like just a basic takedown game with grappling and athleticism can potentially beat every single fighter in this heavyweight division, like without exaggeration. And that's not to kind of discredit Aspinall, but it's also not saying, Aspinall is the greatest fighter to ever live. He's the greatest talent to ever live. But it's just from what I see, like even though there are concerns, just a basic good wrestling, good grappling with some athleticism, cardio, speed, boxing, the very basics. I mean, Volkov is a very, very skilled fighter, and the fight wasn't competitive in the slightest. And I just don't see many or any fighters in the heavyweight division being able to stop Aspinall. And I mean, again, maybe in an extended fight, but at this point, I'm not sure who can even make it there. And so I would be favoring Aspinall over the vast majority of the heavyweight division moving forward, if not everyone, if not literally everyone.
Dude, I mean, I know Brett's a numbers guy. Look at these fucking numbers on Aspinall. And we have a 5-fight sample size now. We don't just have, one finish and we're going to act crazy. Like, because sometimes on Contender Series, 16 strikes landed, 1 strike absorbed. Oh my God. No, we're talking about 5 fights. 7.33 strikes landed per minute, 65% striking accuracy, 2.65 strikes absorbed per minute, 64% strike defense, 4.07 takedown average, 100% takedown accuracy, 100% takedown defense, sub averages too. I mean, like, what is there not to love about this? Then we look at the size, 6'5", 78-inch reach, 250 pounds. I mean, and the guy was born in 1993. He's just a kid. He's still growing into this weight class, man. Not growing size-wise, but just mentally and the skills. And what I love about that performance, man, because, like, yeah, there's a question of what happens if it goes past the first round, but I don't think he's like a guy that just goes balls to the wall to where you can make that automatic conclusion that he's going to gas. Like, I felt like he was in there pacing himself. But one thing I was talking about at the beginning of the show was how, like, back in the day in the heavyweight division, the faster dudes were like the smaller dudes, the Cain Velasquez's, #free Cain Velasquez. Like that was like the fast guy. But now you got these guys like Gane and Aspinall who are 6'5", and they're the ones that are moving around with the light footwork, the fast hands. Like, it's truly beautiful to see. And in that Volkov fight, I mean, you got to understand the regard I hold Volkov in. I mean, the guy is such a stud. I get it was a 3-minute and 45-second fight, but let's talk about what we saw in that fight. We saw fast hands. We saw pull counters. We saw leg kicks. We saw a body lock takedown. We saw ground and pound. And then he got back up from the takedown. And at that point, with a lot of fighters, you wonder, oh, shit, I had him down. I was elbowing him. I was opening a cut. Now are we going to start huffing and puffing? Now are we going to start getting discouraged? No. He slips a beautiful shot, times a blast double, goes out there and gets a straight arm lock. Like, I love everything about Tom Aspinall, and I've bet him in every single UFC fight pretty much. So him and Arnold Allen stole the show for me. Those are my guys. I bet on them both at dog odds, beat the line by closing mile.
Well done.
I'm just stoked on both of them. So before I get you out of there, man, I know you were on Molly McCann. Beautiful job, man. I mean, beautiful job. Like, and I know you're not, what is it you like to talk about? How it's not results oriented, meaning that we don't need to talk about the beautiful KO, which by the way is knockout of the year. How about we talk about these fucking numbers? How about we talk about the fact that she went out there and attempted over 174 significant strikes. The fight didn't even go all 15 minutes. How about we talk about the fact that she went 2 for 2 with takedowns? How about we talk about the fact that she landed a disgusting knockdown/knockout? I mean, I loved everything about Molly's performance. And when she was teeing off on her in the first round, it goes back to that front runner talk. Okay, she could have teed off on her. Luana stayed in there, and then it could have been like, all right, I'm discouraged. I didn't get her out of here. Now just come tee off on me. I mean, we're talking about there was like a 10-inch reach disadvantage, Brett. And this is the second fight in a row where she's had a 10-inch reach disadvantage, and she went out there and took care of biz. So I was blown away by Molly McCann. I've always been a fan. I mean, I think I cashed like her at like plus 250 against Ariane Lipsky a few years back, and I like her a lot. She's really grown on me, and that was a star-making performance last night.
Yeah, I like her a lot too. And I mean, it is nice to get predictions right now and again. And I just, in that fight, when you look at McCann's career and just like, she has a pretty fair sample at this point. Every single time that she's lost, she's been taken down and dominated essentially by Jillian Robertson, by Tyler Santos, by Laura Procopio. Those are her 3 losses in the UFC. And granted, not every other fight was one-way traffic, but she was very, very competitive in those fights. So like for me, that was a case where first and foremost, I needed to figure out, was she going to get, grapple fucked, which is always still somewhat of a concern because she defends takedowns like 30% or something.
Not by Luana.
But then you look throughout Luana's history, who she had never even attempted one single takedown in the UFC. So at the very least, I felt that, okay, she's a little bit less likely to go for those takedowns than a fighter like Jillian Robertson, than a fighter like Tyler Santos. She hadn't even attempted one in the UFC yet. And then if you're looking at just in terms of the striking exchanges, the reach advantage is I always want my fighters to have reach and volume. That would be ideal if they know how to use it. And McCann just doesn't have that reach. But she does have the volume, and every single time she's fought to a decision that's outside of her 3 dominating wrestling losses, she's just landed in an incredibly high number of strikes. She presses forward. Her cardio's been great. And most recently, she fought Ji-Yeon Kim, who, had a 10-inch reach advantage over her. And Kim, I actually respect Kim's boxing. And Kim was able to keep up a pace. Kim has good hands, and Kim fought very competitively. And I didn't see that same level of boxing from Carolina. I didn't see that same level of output. And I was just a little bit more confident in what McCann would bring to the table. And thankfully it worked out. And again, McCann is not a fighter who I will be betting every single time. I mean, it's matchup dependent and it's number dependent. But yeah, I got her at minus 122 against an opponent who I just didn't think could keep up with her on the feet or on the ground. It worked out. And McCann, I hate when fighters, because there's a lot of these fighters, there's a lot of very, very athletic, powerful, they have great physical attributes, and they just don't fight optimally. They stand back, they don't throw strikes, they don't land takedowns, their defense sucks, their cardio sucks. I really respect fighters who can maximize their own performance, and McCann is one of those fighters. She's not or ever going to be the best wrestler in the world, but I mean, she came into the UFC as like a joke almost. People thought she had no grappling. There was I feel like there was SPG ties, but every single time she fights, she tries incredibly hard. She presses forward. She attempts strikes at one of the highest rates in the entire division. She attempts takedowns at a very high rate. That is maximizing your abilities, and it's paid off for her because she's won in the UFC a lot more times than she's lost. That's not a coincidence. That's a fighter who's putting everything they have behind their abilities and maximizing their chances to win every single time. And I still think she's going to fall short going forward against good wrestlers, but like, I really like her and I really respect her because you know what you're going to get from her every single time.
Yes, sir. Brett Appley, listen, me and you can sit here talk for the next 2 hours. I got my last guest waiting for me. Dude, you know it's always a pleasure. Let's do a full podcast soon.
Yep,
everybody
good.
Make sure you go ahead. What?
Oh, I said, yep, sounds good.
Yeah. Everybody follow my boy Brett Appley. Like, I don't throw around the word genius often, and I know he's a humble guy, but like, I truly respect this guy's opinion, and I like him even more as a person. Brett, you are the fucking man. Always love talking fights with you because me and you are very stubborn guys, and I'm not gonna sway your opinion, and you're not gonna sway my opinion, but we can also have a respectful conversation. We can debate. We can do it all, and we're still gonna be boys at the end of the day, man. So much love, much respect. Keep doing you, man, and I cannot wait to speak to you again.
Yep. Likewise, bro. Thanks for having me on. It's great talking to you, and keep up the great work. I mean, I've seen you've been crushing it. You've been absolutely crushing it yourself. So I love it. Great to see it. And yeah, let's definitely do a longer podcast coming up soon. Yeah. Talk soon, bro.
I'd love to. Take care, buddy. And last but not least, we saved the best for last. My boy, the one and only Ben the Bane Davis. Ben, what the fuck is up, my man?
Oh, it is just a beautiful Sunday morning here in Tempe, Arizona. The sun's out, the birds are chirping, and some combat sports action went down yesterday. You can hear the voice is kind of gone, Dan. I got into it. I got rowdy, and just beautiful. I mean, this is something that I think I expressed on the TL, something I really said to the people that I was watching it with. That was, without a doubt, one of the best UFC events I think I've watched in a very, very long time. I mean, every fight delivered. The narratives that were laid, I mean, improved greatly. Paddy's stock grows in just such a great way, and by a method that I kind of didn't think he was going to go to. Leveraging that grappling shows that he is willing to be holistic with his skill set and not only headhunt, not only search for those big highlight reel knockout finishes. He's still rational as a fighter and not digging into all of that hype and the showmanship. But Dan, how about you, man? How you doing?
Doing fucking amazing. I mean, me and you broke down the last card together. We cashed that dog money on Aspinall. We cashed that dog money on Dan Hooker. We cashed that parlay with Paddy Pimblett and Kevin Holland. So clean sweep for me. I'm feeling great. I've already talked about the Aspinall and the Allen fights ad nauseum, and honestly, I can talk about them for the next 3 hours. I'm so stoked.
Mix it up.
We'll mix it those up, guys. But let's get to Paddy. Paddy. I mean, after that stinker that Gunnar Nelson put on, and again, dominant performance, man. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's just that when we talk about one of the most epic cards of the year, if we can just omit that Gunny Nelson fight, then it is the most epic fight card of the year. But then again, some people need a smoke break. Some people need a bathroom break. Some people need to go to Wingstop and pick up them wings. And you know what I'm saying? So,
hey, I'm like, Gunnar, thank you so much for giving me that 15-minute break.
Right.
But I will say the one sad moment for me in that one is Gunnar Nelson not finishing by submission. As I think you might have seen, it destroyed every single parlay that I had, except for one, except for the 9-leg parlay that would have landed $5 to 280. I cashed out before the co-main event because I was nervous. But yeah, Gunnar Nelson effectively stole $500 from me by not finishing. But I look back on it as a guy who's growing in the betting realm, Dan. I think I see where my lessons should be learned. I don't know why I bet on a guy that was coming off of a big layoff, who is notoriously low volume in every aspect of the game. Yes, he has 12 wins by submission of his 17, now 18 overall. But I shouldn't have gone for the prop, I don't think. I think that was my big lesson learned. I shouldn't have seen the minus odds on a method of finish. I should have just picked him at the money line, and that would have saved me a whole heck of a lot of trouble and heartache. But lesson learned, we move onwards and upwards. But I do agree. Gunnar Nelson, that was a interesting performance against the guy I think he should have finished, but dominant regardless. I mean, hometown hero in some shape, SBG, second best or third best at the gym. It is good to see him get a win. As much as I dislike the performance, I'm happy that he's in the win column.
Now, listen, I would never tell anyone how to bet, but I can only tell you how I bet. And I'm a money line guy. And reason being, I mean, listen to this, dude. I think we might have talked about this on the last show or not, but like, so. Okay, so I bet Francis Ngannou plus 130 against Cyril Gane. Everybody's messaging me like, dude, what the fuck? Why don't you just take the Francis by KO prop? Do you know how fucking pissed I would have been if I bet Francis by KO and not Francis straight? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you don't no need to get cute, man. I mean, Aspinall was dog money. That's all. I don't need to go Aspinall by KO or sub or he's dog money is the guy I'm picking out, right? That's it. Arnold Allen, the guy I'm picking out, right, is dog money. That's it. There's no need to get cute with it. Like
it's that KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. My buddy Ian Parker, I was texting him several weeks ago.
Our buddy,
you know him too. Ian's fantastic. Ian's the man. And here's what he told me. He was like, "Don't be a hero." He's like, "Don't be a hero. Just take the value where you can get it." You just said it perfectly. If you're picking the guy, if he's who you want, and you can get him at plus odds, there really isn't much of a reason, I don't think, to get into the nitty gritty of props and methods. I mean, yeah, I agree. No need to get cute. Yeah, that's. I mean, listen, damn, put it on a t-shirt. Put it on a t-shirt right there.
I mean, you might hit one long shot here and there, just like you might hit a long shot 10-team parlay here and there. But like, if long term you want to be on the end, on the right side of the coin, I mean, you got to take these undervalued spots on straight bets, man. I mean, that's just how I play. You know, if you want to be a degen and have fun and throw away money, okay, do you. From time to time, you know, you'll cash big, but like, I want to consistently like just rack up profit, incremental profit, and be at the end, on the right side of the coin long term, you know, throughout a long sample size. You know, I do have like I think a 7 or 8 year betting record, like, and it's not by accident, man. And I've done, not every week's going to be a winning week, you know. You take your ups and downs like a man, but you stick by your process. So, you know, Allen and Aspinall at dog odds, like is this some kind of sick joke? But let's talk about Paddy Pimblett, man. Because look, what an electric walkout that he had. I know that was the talk of the town, but in addition to that, the kind of pressure this kid had on him. I know that he had the smile, and I know, you know, Scousers don't get knocked out, and I know all that stuff, but like, my boy went out there and, you know, ate a hard shot in the first minute, just like he did his last fight, overcame it, pulled guard, got his bearings back. And then when it was his turn to do his work, got that nice little judo throw, got on top of the kid, transitioned to the back, and got the Mata Leon rear naked choke. And that was all she wrote, man. So another first round finish for Pimblett. His stock is rising. I think he had like 1 million followers on Instagram until he got blocked, hence why he called out Mark Zuckerberg. But this kid is a star in the making, and I would not be surprised to see him headline a fight night here in the, you know, in the coming here in the I'm still
next year or so. Yeah, I mean, look, I could clearly see within the next
recent future,
8 to 9 months. I mean, 8 to 9 months. Why would you not give Pimblett that main event showcase? And I would suggest that the Ilya Topuria matchup, narrative-wise, plot-wise, is right there. I mean, there's so much story. They're scrapping at the hotel. Ilya called him out post-fight after his win. Grant, I don't know how much you dug into that Topuria fight in the last hour 27, but boy, that was a crazy one. But I mean, that would make a lot of sense. Granted, Topuria is a big matchup. I mean, that kid's got hands for days. Not untouchable, though. I mean, if Jai Herbert can crack you in that method, I think Paddy could also have a lot of success standing. So if the UFC put that one together, I'd be like, wow, they've got a lot of balls. But look, Jim Miller, I feel like would be another great matchup for Paddy Pimblett. Veteran, battle-tested, also on a streak of his own. I think Pimblett versus Miller would be a solid one. I saw that suggested on Twitter. I won't claim to have come up with that myself, but I was like, that one is such a good matchup that I feel they can make.
Yeah, you could do that. It's just about, you know, let's let this kid develop, like really start to feel like the octagon is his home. Like, I think, you know, the Jared Gordon fight might have kind of been a little too much too soon. Possibly, you never know, possibly, but I like the heart on this kid, Paddy Pimblett. You know, that, you know, he might leave his chin up in the air. You might get cracked early every single fight, but the dude's a real fighter. The dude's got balls. Listen, I know you don't want to kill off a prospect, but I do like people talking about the Terrence McKinney fight, you know, because I think Terrence puts it on him early.
Yeah.
But if Paddy's still there, late first round, early second round, Paddy ain't the kind of guy you want to start to gas out and go kamikaze on, man. So I like that. I just want to see what direction they want to go with it, man. If they want to headline a fight night with him, if they want to put him, you know, first fight of a pay-per-view. But either way, we got a star in the making in Paddy Pimblett, man.
And that's the beauty of what Saturday night brought for the baddie, is any direction you take it is profitable. Any direction you put him in is something that will all tides are going to rise when Paddy Pimblett is around. I will say I was critical. I was very critical, maybe unfairly so, about his character and that persona and the arrogance kind of that he brings. Arrogance, confidence, interchangeable to some shape. But he seemed really down to earth in the post fight. I don't know if you watched the Karen Bryant, Dean Thomas segment with himself and Molly McCann, but I mean, he just seemed like a really down to earth guy and was laughing with Bisping and having a lot of fun. And, I think that moment for me, more so than that emphatic highlight reel victory, is like, okay, I wasn't sold on the person behind the fighting necessarily, but now I can get behind Paddy a bit more and sort of be like less of a hater.
I feel you, man. There's no reason to be a hater on a guy like that, man. I mean,
right.
He seems like a nice kid to me. He seems genuine. He's trying to be himself. And those are the kind of things I like. It's the guys that, try to be something they're not. And that's what I don't like. And shout out to Makwan Amirkhani, man, because that was a fight where a lot of pressure was on both guys, man. Grundy, obviously, shout out to him and his family. But listen, there's things more important than fighting. At the end of the day, he gets to go home and see his dad tonight, So it's like his dad's not going to think any less of him because he lost that fight. And for those that don't know, his dad's struggling with, a terminal illness. So all prayers or whatever you believe in, good vibes, positivity, send that all his way, man. And I know he really wanted to go out there and show out in front of his crowd, but sometimes it just doesn't go out. It just doesn't go like that. The MMA is a brutal sport. Shot in, was overconfident and leaving his neck out there, and against a guy like Makwan who can snatch up that anaconda, that is his signature move. 0 strikes were landed on either side in that fight, man. It was just one takedown and the fight was over shortly after. But usually when I talk about one takedown and the fight is over shortly after, I talk about you land the takedown, you get on top of the guy, submit or pound him out. Here it was dove head first into an anaconda choke while Makwan was fresh, and that was all she wrote, Bane.
It was just that overzealousness of it. I think that the pressure got to Grundy a little bit. I think he wanted to perform and show up. Again, he's coming off a bit of a layoff, a 2-fight skid, but just a very talented guy. And I think that with all of the context of his familial issues, it made him put himself in a bad spot early. And you're right, Makwan is still a very dangerous guy, especially within that first round. I think the last 5 or 6 fights of his, a lot of them haven't gone his way. And some of them he really hasn't had a lot of success in, but it should not be underplayed that Mr. Finland has a lot of tools and has a lot of finishes, most specifically within the submission realm. And it's for me, it's just heartbreaking. Like, I really wanted Grundy to win. And I know that the UFC did as well. I mean, shit, look at all of the pieces of content that they had produced and put together, promoting and trying to push Mike into this spotlight and get this big win for himself, his father. And it really is just, I mean, God, I had to sort of stand up and just, I was like, fuck, that is just bad thinking about it. But, you're right. At the end of the day, he still got his dad. They went home and they got to spend time together. And that is really what it's about. And I'm sure it would have been maybe better for Grundy had he gotten that win, maybe more of a celebratory evening. But, these fighters are people first, and family is the most important thing at the end of the day, right, Dan?
100% live to fight another day. So before I let you go, man, obviously Mokaev did his thing. I thought Jack Shore and Timur Valiev put on one hell of a fight, but the guy I got to talk about before we get out of here is the one and only Paul Craig. I mean, how many fucking times can he do this, man? Getting pounded on by Ankaleev, goes out there, submits him with 2 seconds left in the fight. Yeah. Jamal Hill wanted to test the waters. Big mistake. And Jamal Hill, the way he handled that L, man. I mean, and props to him. He's the only guy that didn't tap. He's the only guy that let his arm break. But you know how high I am on Jamal Hill, man. I think that he's the future of the division. And then Nikita Krylov pounding on him. Looks like he's about to have him out a couple shots, and then triangle choke city out of nowhere. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like these guys keep thinking they can go down on the ground with Paul Craig, and they keep having early success, and then out of nowhere, a limb snatch, a triangle choke is locked on. Like, this guy, Paul Craig, is the most opportunistic submission artist in the history of the UFC light heavyweight division. Facts being, he has the most submissions in the UFC light heavyweight division, has surpassed Ovin St. Preux and Misha Serkunov.
Wow. I mean, what
And
more
John
is-
Jones.
What more is there to say? Craig is just a fucking specimen, and seeing him win is always a phenomenal experience because he puts so much energy into that buildup. He gets the Scotland on the face. He's roaring. You can tell how much passion that this guy has. And look, this is something that I was saying the entire week. I was like, Craig by sub at plus 350. You are fucking me in the ass. That's a ridiculously inflated line against Krylov. 5 career submission loss, now 6 career losses by sub. I was like, there's no way that this is it's set this way. The odds makers are clearly missing something. And I was scared. I was very nervous. Some of those shots, you could tell, I mean, they were just pushing his head into the canvas. I was like, Craig, how are you not gone? And he locks it up. And I thought Krylov was going to maybe defend a bit more. I thought Krylov was going to have a bit more defense, maybe trying to do a slam or something. But that was just out in 5 seconds as you had Krylov tapping. And I mean, I will say, in terms of locks that I had, I know we just talked about props. I know we just talked about them, but
This is an exception.
This is the exception. I was like, Paul Craig by sub, give me that any day of the week. And gosh, I mean, what is that? Is it 2 in a row, 3 in a row for him? What's he at right now? Is that a bounce back win? I don't even know what his record is right now.
You talking about Paul?
Mm-hmm.
No, he's on a streak. He's on a big streak. I mean, finish Jamal Hill, finish Shogun, finish Nikita Krylov.
Perfect.
He hasn't lost since 2019.
Jeez, Craig contender season. Let's go.
I
I mean,
know.
so that's an interesting spot because you look at Ankalaev at 9. You look at Hill at, I believe, 8. Or not, just Ankalaev at 9, Ankalaev at 4, Hill at about 9. What would you do with Craig moving forward? Now, I think you said Anthony Smith in Glasgow, Scotland. That is a very intriguing matchup that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so basically, let's take it fight by fight. So Glover is booked against Jiri Prohaska. Jan Blachowicz is allegedly going to fight Alexander Rakic. Magomed Ankalaev is free. Anthony Smith is free. Thiago Santos is free, but you know. Dominic Reyes is free. Volkan Oezdemir is free. Nikita, he just beat. Jamal, he just beat. So those are the guys. And I think they're gonna either match Jamal up with Volkan or with Magomed Ankalaev. I wouldn't mind seeing Jamal usher out Dominic Reyes out the rankings either. So he called out Anthony Smith. Maybe he gets his wish, but I also am under the inclination that Anthony Smith is at that point in his career where he only wants to kind of fight guys ranked ahead of him. So honestly, this is one where I'm not sure. This is one where let's see what the matchmakers decide and let's take it from there. But all I know is that I will not be missing the next Paul Craig fight or any Paul Craig fight.
Hey, man, we're back at the Bear Jew, big moving forward, and I'll lay money on that sub line. I don't even care what the fuck it is. I'm still tossing some coin down on it moving forward. But overall, yeah, I just loved yesterday's card, man. I was, from top to bottom, thoroughly enjoyed. I will say I was driving. I got out of Tempe late when I was heading up, and so I missed Muhammad Makaev just detonating Cody Durden with that beautiful, it was a triangle, right? Or no, he locked it up and then he got kind of slammed.
It was a flying knee, and then he got a guillotine.
Okay, bet. I mean, lived up to it. We were questioning, right? We were kind of questioning whether or not he was going to get past a battle-tested UFC guy. Granted, Jordan's not really the best, but he did in such fashion. Kid's got a bright future. I mean, shit. Manel Kopp, I don't know what Manel's doing, but I don't want to fast-track Makaev in any way, shape, or form, but he spent so much time in the amateur season. I think that it's well-deserved that a guy like Muhammad, with as much hype as he has, let's get him going as quick as we can.
Yeah, I suggested the Tagir Ulanbekov fight. There's so many options. So, listen, man, I got to get you out of here. I got to get myself out of here. I'd love to talk for the next 2 hours about this fucking amazing card and also just keep talking about how much I love Aspinall and Arnold Allen. But we're going to let you go. Hey, man, great job on the preview show. Great job on after the battle over here, man. Much love. Follow my boy at Ben, the Bane Davis. This time we did not fuck it up. And my man, any message for the fans before we get out of here?
I just want to say ESFL 141 is going down. I'm hopping back in the commentary booth shortly
Yes.
at ESFL Gaming on Twitch, YouTube. Please follow over. We're trying to make that play-by-play happen this year, and it all starts in situations like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Bane. We'll speak soon for sure, for sure. And best of luck in the show tonight.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
You as well, buddy. All right. So everybody, thank you all so much. I hope you guys really enjoyed this special edition of After the Battle on Half the Battle for UFC London. I had an absolute blast. Huge thanks to all my guests. Huge thanks to all the fans that tune in. Guys, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button for me. Let's grow the channel and like, comment, share, retweet, everything. Let's get the word out there if you were as thoroughly entertained as I was by my guest tonight. So thank you guys again. Tuesday I will be back. Looks like we're gonna have Leron Murphy on the show Tuesday, and then next Thursday I'm gonna announce it right now. I'm gonna be breaking down the upcoming card with the man himself, Nick Kalikis. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you all so much again. Smash the like button for me. Subscribe to Half the Battle everywhere podcasts are found. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.